Hello everybody! In this lesson, I will introduce squares and cubes, and then we will also look at square roots and cube roots, but just the introduction. Let's look at squares and cubes in mathematics. When I give you 5 to the power of 2, you read it as 5 squared. And that means it's 5 times 5. It's 5 times itself twice. Then in algebra, when I give you a squared, it's exactly the same as a times a. A times itself twice. This one, a 2 to the power of 3, is read as 2 cubed. And that one means 2 times 2 times 2. And then in algebra, when I give you b cubed, it means b times b times b. Square and cube roots in algebra. When I give you the square root of 36, then the answer is 6. And how you got to 6 was, you said what times itself gave me 36, and that was 6 times 6. Now in algebra, you will say the square root of a squared is just a. Now how we calculate this is, when I give you a square root, there is actually an invisible 2. So when you take the square root in algebra, you will take that invisible 2 and you will divide the exponent by 2. Therefore, 2 goes in itself once and 2 goes in itself once. You're left with just a. And remember, if there's no exponent, there's an invisible a. When we look at the cube root of 27, the answer is 3. Why? Because 3 times 3 times 3 gave me 27. Now in algebra, when I give you the cube root of b to the power of 3, what you do is you take the 3 of the cube root and you will divide the exponent by 3. And then you will say 3 goes in itself once and 3 goes in itself once. Therefore, the cube root of b to the 3 is just b. Remember, it's the exponent that you divide by 3. Let's simplify the following roots. When I give you square root of x to the 8, you take the invisible 2 and you divide the exponent by 2. And then you will say 2 goes in itself once, 2 goes into 8 4 times. Therefore, the answer is x to the power of 4. The next one, the square root of 8 of a to the 4. So you take the invisible 2 and you divide the exponent by 2. And then you will say 2 goes in itself once, 2 goes into 4 twice. Therefore, the answer a squared. On the next sum, suddenly there's a coefficient other than 1. So now you deal with the coefficient first and then you're going to deal with the variable. So you will say that the square root of 9, you know the answer is 3. And then in terms of the square, the b squared, you will take the invisible 2 and you divide the exponent by 2. And then you say 2 goes in itself once, 2 goes in itself once. Therefore, the answer to the square root of 9b squared is just 3b. On the next sum, suddenly there's 2 variables, but you will deal with them individually. So you will start with the coefficient, the number, and you will say the square root of 16 is 4. That's fine. Now you take the invisible 2 on the square root and you will go to every variable individually, and you will say divide the x squared by 2, the exponent, and you will divide the y's exponent by 2. And then 2 and 2 can cancel, therefore you're left with 4x, and on y you will say 2 goes in itself once, 2 goes into 4 twice. Therefore the answer is 4xy squared. Now when it's a cube root, remember, you will take this little 3 on the cube root and you will divide the exponent by 3 now. And then you will say 3 goes in itself once and 3 goes into 6 twice. Therefore the answer is b squared. The cube root of x to the 12. So what you do, you take the little 3 there, it goes to the exponent, and you divide the exponent by 3. Then you will say 3 goes in itself once, 3 goes into 12 4 times. Therefore the answer x to the 4. Again, these numbers, coefficients. So what you do is you just say the cube root of 125 is 5, and then on the variable you will say you will take the little 3, go to the exponent and divide the exponent by 3, and then 3 goes in itself once and 3 goes in itself once. You're left with 5a. On this one, suddenly there's 2 variables. No problem. You will say the cube root of 8 is 2, and then in terms of the variables, again you will take the little 3 and every exponent gets divided by that 3. Therefore it will be 3 goes in itself once, 3 goes into 6 twice, and on y 3 goes in itself once, 3 goes into 9 3 times. So you're left with the cube root of 8 is 2, x squared, y to the power of 3. In the next video, we will deal with calculations in algebraic expressions with square and cube roots. Click on the video in the left-hand corner to take you straight to the next video.